Hello, I'm Dr. Howard. Today we're going to talk about dowsing. We're going to talk about how to dowse, different ways of dowsing, and what you can do with the information. We're going to talk about people that don't need to dowse because they know. There's something called knowing. It's a way of just knowing instead of having to ask questions with various techniques, which we happen to call dowsing. The Raymond Grace is probably one of the premier people in this country on as a dowser. And he has a book, Techniques That Work for Me. In that book, he references an article online that you can download called Letter to Robin. And in the Letter to Robin, it's a free download. You can get a dowsing chart. You can make your own dowsing chart. It's just a very nice dowsing chart. I studied under Raymond Grace. Cheryl, my partner, she studied with me under Raymond Grace, but she learned about dowsing 20 years ago from the top dowsers in the country. At least the people who are currently the top dowsers in the country were her teachers back then. I didn't learn dowsing originally. I knew about it, wasn't sure what you can do with it because I had knowing. In other words, the same information that people were dowsing with back 20, 30, 40 years ago, I sort of knew. And so I figured, well, if I know and I can also influence the outcome that people were getting from their dowsing, I figured, well, I'm not sure what good that is. Because if I can influence it with my mind, I can influence the information I receive from dowsing. And so I learned over the years that I just knew things. And when I was in chiropractic school, some of the students were testing, doing strength testing. And from across the room, I figured out that I could decide what the answers they would get when they were trying to get a yes or no answer to a question. We're going to talk about this different strength testing techniques. And it's taken me years and years and years. It wasn't until I met Cheryl and learned some things about her and then met Raymond Grace and studied under him that I realized that yes, the answers to dowsing questions can be determined by your own thoughts, but you can get out of the way of your thoughts and allow the answers to be there. I'm very accurate when I dowse. Every once in a while, I still have a question, well, do I have a bias? And if I think I do, I ask Cheryl to do the dowsing. And if a client that I'm working with a problem can dowse, I ask them to dowse for the answers. And believe me, when they get an answer from dowsing, they believe it even more than they would believe me when I get an answer from dowsing or from knowing. So it's a good idea to do that. Let's talk a little bit about dowsing. Dowsing is a way of getting information from your subconscious to your conscious mind. That's all it is. Your subconscious knows a heck of a lot. A lot of it pulls from other dimensions. I know it pulls from other dimensions because when I see auras, I can see them on television. And as a physicist, I know what's on a TV signal. There's no aura, so I'm pulling information from someplace. And with auras, as I've talked about before, the information gets superimposed on my visual cortex, and it's a way for my subconscious mind to tell my conscious mind, provide it with information. Well, that's all dowsing is. You think about people with dowsing rods, and you can use dowsing rods, and you can use pendulums. That's a pendulum. And I can get no answers from a pendulum. I can get yes answers from a pendulum. I can do some other things with the pendulum. I can use it as a timer. I start it turning in one direction, and I just let it go until it decides to stop. And when it decides to stop, I've got an answer. The answer is, okay, time's up. What the pendulum is in this case, and I can go in the other direction, decide what it means when it goes in that direction. And what it does is I've trained my subconscious mind my conscious mind, I've trained it to don't interrupt the subconscious. It's doing something important. And it tells me by the direction that I have it spinning, it tells me what's important, what it's doing. I can train it, or train myself actually, to make it mean different things depending on how it's spinning. I can decide that if I want to disrupt energy, I can have it go in a counterclockwise direction. And when it's finished and stops, it's disrupted enough energy for me. It's an intention field. It says, okay, I'm disrupting energy. Tell me when we're done. I can have it go clockwise and put energy back together in a different form. And it'll tell me when it's done, or when I'm done. Pendulum's not doing a thing. It's an inanimate object. But my subconscious mind is using it, and in this regard, it's using it and say, go bother yourself, go get yourself doing something else besides bothering me, conscious mind. I'm busy. And that's all we use it for in energy, for moving energy around. I've decided, and Raymond Gray seems to do it this way, so since I studied under him, I do it the way he does. But he told us, you can make it go the other way and decide it means the same thing but going in the other direction. It's just up to you. There's no fixed rule. It's what you decide, and then stick to it so that your conscious mind knows what the subconscious is trying to tell it, or information is trying to pass through to it. And so I've decided if I want to use energy, if I want to take energy apart back to its primal form of holy light, I decide what I want to do. I start spinning the pendulum around in a counterclockwise direction. And when I say start, yes, I gave it a little shove in that direction. Now I don't bother whether I'm giving it a shove, not giving it a shove. It will stop at the proper time when I've taken the energy apart, or when the energy's been taken apart for me, that I've decided needs to be taken apart. If I need to open a gate to another dimension, I can spin this in a counterclockwise direction with the intent that the gate will open. If I want to I can also choose, if I'm opening a gate, to go in this direction, to go clockwise. Normally, when opening gates, it's because we have some people that have died and have not, maybe a spook basically, and has not made the transition. They're afraid. They get all sorts of stories in this life about fire and brimstone and hell and damnation and everything else, and some of them are scared to death. They've had bad thoughts. They've done bad things. They figure they're going to, if they go to the other side, they're going to end up in a very hot place. Well, that's not quite how it works. I'll open a gate. I'll call some angels, ask them to come through with the medics and take the spooks across to the other side, give them first aid, and send them on their way with a blessing. What happens to them on that side is not going to be bad. In Judaism, we don't have a belief in a horrible, horrible hell and a punishing God that makes demands. God doesn't create us the way we are and then punish us for the way we are because we're not different. In Judaism, we believe that we want to be close to God, and that it is hell to not be strong enough to be as close as we'd like. And so that's what happens. I've been there in this life. It wasn't when I died. I had a at one point, I was kissing my wife, and I wasn't here. I was in heaven. And it was unbelievable and unbelievably beautiful. And I didn't want to leave. And I wanted to get closer and closer and closer to that light that was unbelievable. And the strength kept getting stronger and stronger. And I realized any stronger, and I was not coming back. I was instantly pushed back to a point where I was perfectly safe and I knew I would not be destroyed by the light. But I couldn't get any closer to God, and it was horrible. Then I knew what hell was, but it's not a hot place that you're going to be burning in eternal damnation. It's just you're temporarily held a little away from God for whatever purpose God has, so that you're not fully assimilated and lose your identity. That's my understanding. I've talked to rabbis about this. That's the understanding that they have also. That's been passed down in Jewish literature, mystical lore, that this is what is going on. And I've seen some of the Jewish mystical lore in translation, and there are rabbis that have described exactly what I just described to you. Now, let's get back to what we're doing with energy. If we have some energy that's not nice, we can take it apart and change it back to its primal form. We can then have it woven back into a different pattern, into love, into health, into healing, into whatever we ask. And so we ask the divine to take it apart, and now we have a big pile of energy sitting around, and now we ask the divine to go and reweave it into something else. And if need be, to take away its memory so that it doesn't even remember what it was. So it really will be something else, because it'll have a new memory of whatever that form of energy would have. So that's what you can do with energy. That's what you can do with spinning a pendulum. I like to call it a dreidel. We spin the dreidel. Dreidel is a Jewish name for a top. Anyway, that's one way of playing with energy. That's with dowsing. And as I said, Raymond talks about it. The book, The Letter to Robin, from a friend of his that was published and given to the world, tells you more about dowsing. And that's in the formal form of dowsing. You can go to Raymond Grace, RaymonGrace.us to get more information on this. Now, there's some other ways we can dowse. And there are other devices that dowsers use. You know, you can go and have 2 sticks and douse for water. These are just ways of getting information to you from your subconscious mind to the conscious mind. You can also do muscle testing, and this is how a lot of people get yes and no answers about all sorts of things. If you put your arm up and somebody pushes here, that's a formal way of muscle testing, and that isn't necessarily to get yes or no answers. You can get yes and no answers that way, but it's also a form of doing clinical testing for neurological problems, because we know which nerves go from the brain to the different muscles, and if you put the arm in a position so that just the deltoid muscle is holding the arm up and push, you can test the deltoid muscles, the strength of that muscle. And the strength of that muscle is governed by the 5th cervical nerve, so you can check the integrity of the signals coming down through the 5th cervical nerve path. That's not what we're doing here. That's for clinical work. What we're doing with muscle checking rather than muscle testing is what we're going to be talking about. And that's what most people do. You can have an arm pulled this way, and if it's strong, you can decide whether strong means yes or strong means no. Or weak, you can test whether if strong means yes, then weak means no. So if I say, is my name Howard, and I push, it should be strong. or somebody else pushes. If they say, is your name Myrtle, it should be weak. It's an intention field that makes it weak or strong. My intention field is I will get a yes or a no answer that's accurate through my subconscious mind from wherever it's getting the information, presumably from the divine. You can have the arm up. You can have the arm down over here. You can put the arm this way. You can push the arm this way. It doesn't matter. Just try not to hurt somebody by pushing too hard in a direction that they're not used to pushing. You can take your fingers like this. Link them in here. My name Howard. They're locked. My name Myrtle. Pull apart easily. You can do that for yourself. You can do that to find out on somebody else. You can do that on yourself to get an answer on somebody else. It's called being a proxy. I can push on somebody else's arm to get an answer for this person over here. I'm using this person to proxy that person. If you're going to do proxying, ask yourself, ask the universe, am I allowed to do a proxy right now? You get a yes or no. You can use your fingers like this. Put them like this, push. Didn't move down, that's a yes. Move down, that's a no. You can do them like this. I find it easier to do like this. Push, it's a yes. That's a no. Get all sorts of yes and no answers. You can talk to the feet. You can have a person lying face down. You go look at their feet, you line them up, you ask a question, and one leg will get short. Put them back, ask the opposite question, the other leg gets short. It works. Don't ask why. It just works. It works because of intention fields. This is the only thing I can think of. When you do this, you work with the intent that you are out of the picture, you're trying to get some information, and that's what you're going to get, and you will. Practice. Doesn't happen instantly for some people. For others, it does. With practice, it will happen every time. Just keep practicing. And as I said, the alternative is knowing. If you will allow yourself to know and to do it enough that you and have the answers come out enough times that they're verifiable, that you know 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 that you're getting good results, accurate results, it works. Just use it. If you need to use this for your work, if you need to use this for something you have to do in life, believe me, you'll learn how to use it. If you're having trouble, find a friend that knows how to do this, ask them to help. If not, just do what Raymond Grace did. He practiced and practiced and practiced till one day he could do it. And he's been doing it ever since and teaching other people to work miracles. Take care. Have a good evening. God bless. Talk to you tomorrow.